Hi guys, right, today we're going to go through the 4PS graphical resource planning, and the agenda for today, quite a simple one. So we're going to do an introduction to the what we call the GRP, so that's the graphical resource planner. We're going to talk a little bit about why it's come along. It's actually replacing an existing product of ours called the GWP, the graphical work order planner, and just want to explain a couple of the reasons why that is. We're going to do a demonstration of the GRP. We're going to talk about a roadmap for the GRP and what is coming next with it, and then try and summarize what we think are the benefits of you guys using the GRP. So just as a brief introduction, the GRP fits into the map there at the bottom. You saw it appear. This map here is basically taking you through various components that make up what we call a sort of cooperation model of 4PS. In this case, it's related to service. So top left, you've got the service portal, which links into the top right, which is the 4PS construct itself. And 4PS construct has a direct link into this planner. This planner runs, this new planner actually runs within 4PS construct and can directly update the field service app, which is in the bottom right, and in the bottom left, we have a thing called the subcontractors portal, where you can let subcontractors know about work that you might have planned for them through the planner. Okay, so what is the GRP and why have we got it? Why is it a thing? It's basically designed for easy scheduling and planning within the system. You know, if you're doing it each through the nav system and having to plan dates and times, it's very easy to lose track of where you are. And the scheduler is designed to sort of keep an overview of what's going on across the board, so you can see exactly who's being planned and when, what resources are available, etc. It enables you to drag and drop. So the idea of that is it's nice and easy to use and quick to use. So if you're in a kind of environment where you're rapidly scheduling people during the day, you can quickly move people around and have that reflected both in the planner and directly back into the system at the same time as well, because they're both running in the same environment, and get an instant update. It's multi-user, so it's a planner that enables lots of people to use it at once. If you think of a typical planner, if you like, maybe Project or Excel, you might struggle in that respect, particularly with Excel, with people sharing big spreadsheets around. Whereas this multi-user environment, you can kind of split the planning up between various planners. They can each have their own employees, perhaps, that they schedule, or their own types of resource that they schedule, and they can concentrate on that. And everyone's planning at the same time in the same planning environment and updating the same system. And there's no duplication of data. So when we're using employees, subcontractors, items of plant, that type of stuff, we are using the entities that have already been created in 4PS. You don't have to kind of recreate them in the in an external planning tool. So it keeps it all nicely synced. You know, if you create new employees in the system, they can be fed directly into the planner straight away. New items of plant arrive, you can use them directly within the planner, and without having to sort of duplicate that data. You can use various filters. So within the system there are disciplines. You know, a typical planning activity would be to say take somebody that's allowed to, it's a qualification to work on the railways. And those particular types of qualifications can be fed into the system. You can filter on those qualifications. So if you're planning a job that is to do with the railways, you know that the people that you're planning on the screen at that point in time have those relevant qualifications for you in order to plan them. So it's a good way of just filtering the information down, so that on the planning screen at any one point in time, you've just got the relevant information. So you're not bamboozled with a whole massive planner of, you know, hundreds of lines and hundreds of dates. You can filter everything down to a nice manageable screen. It uses resources and work orders within 4PS. Those are typical entities within 4PS, and it uses those to do its planning. It's directly linked to the field service app. We explained that on that first slide with the diagram. So directly from the planner, you can notify your engineers out on site of the new work order that they've got, or the new work order that's been planned for them. When they refresh their field service app, it then directly updates directly from the planner. So you've got that nice, efficient process where people know what they've got to do. It reduces the amount of telephone calls that you need to do, the amount of chasing up. It's a nice, tidy process. You can plan projects and service activities together. So I don't know if you guys know, within 4PS you have planning activities that are linked to projects. You also have service activities that are come from the service and maintenance module, and these can both be merged into the same planner and worked on at the same time. You can plan employees, third-party subcontractors, and indeed plant, and that's a new one. So in the past we've never been able to schedule plant, but you can do that now within this planner. And you can do some link resources. So this would be, for example, the example there is a plant and an employee together. So if you've got a vehicle, for example, that you're scheduling for a particular job, and you know that vehicle and the employee are linked because the employee has ownership of that vehicle, you can, if you plan one and link the resource, it will plan the other at the same time. So you get the actual vehicle, maybe it's a crane or something that you're sending out to a particular job. It goes out, but the typical user of that particular piece of equipment is automatically scheduled with it. You can also create brand new orders directly onto the scheduler. So you don't need to set them up necessarily in the background 4PS. You can create new work orders directly on the planner itself. So as work is coming in and changing around and doing all that kind of good stuff, you can use the planner and stay focused on that one environment. And you can create follow-up orders. So if you're in an order, if an engineer is in an order, for example, and they have to pause it or they have to go back to the job on a later date, they can quite easily create a follow-up order that then exists within the planner for them to follow up the call at a later date. Now, one thing that's quite big with planners are the tooltips that appear. So this tells you the kind of information on the planner that you want to make the sort of decisions about who needs to go to the job, what type of job it is, the description of the job, that type of thing. And within the GRP, we've now got adjustable tooltips. So you can go and you can sort of configure the tooltip that appears when you hover over work orders on the planner, so you can see exactly the kind of information that is relevant to you. In the past, that was always fixed, and you had to live with it as it was, but now it's something you can configure. You've got an adjustable planning horizon, so you can plan for a week or for a month or for a day or for an hour or for 2 hours, half days, all those type of things. So you can plan out your different scales within the system. Project and service activities together. You can do notifications. So if you've got scheduling duplications, you can send out notifications in the system as well. And you have colours. So colours are always nice within a planner. And what you can do here is you can set colours depending on different criteria. So this might be reference points. So if you know the service ordering system of 4PS, you have different reference points as the work order goes through its life. You know, whether the engineer has accepted the call, whether it's now on his tablet, whether he's traveling to the job, that type of thing. And those reference points can be color coded. It can also be based on priority. So urgent calls can come up in a particular color, less urgent calls in a different color, that type of thing. So it's a nice, easy way of graphically showing perhaps urgency of a call on the screen. And you can also schedule employees' absence. So if you've got absences showing against employees, they can be visible within a planner as well, so you don't try and plan somebody when they're in the middle of their annual leave. And deplanning, of course, you can change things around, take jobs away from people, move them around, and that's also possible within the planner itself. So that's a very fast introduction into the GRP. I'm just going to quickly, before we see the demonstration, we're just going to go through a couple of the reasons why we actually developed a new version of the planning tool compared to what we had before. And it replaces the graphical work order planner. This was the original scheduling tool. So you could do, it was mainly service orientated, although you could do projects as well. And it's been around for about 10 years, and it was becoming a bit outdated. So it looked old, and very much we want the current systems for users to have this modern look about them. So we were well aware that the existing one was beginning to look a bit tired. Also, it only ran locally, so you had to run it through the Windows client. Those of you that know Nav know there are various different ways you can access Nav, and the GWP only ran through the local version of it, which was limiting in a way, because you had to install software on top of Nav in order to make it work, and you were really stuck to the laptop or the PC that you were running it on. The GRP, you can run it through the web browser or the tablet browser or the Windows browser if you want. Any of the different types of browsers that you have, or those different ways of running Nav, I should say, you can use the GRP. But most importantly, you don't need any local installation. So this runs within the standard Nav. And from our point of view, it's a much more solid platform for development going forward. So we do have a roadmap for it, whereas before we'd really reached the limit of what was capable within the GWP. We're now able to put a roadmap forward and develop the GRP going forward. So this is what the GWP looked like. You can see a little bit old-fashioned, and this is what the GRP looks like. So it's a bit more of a modern interface. And like I say, the most importantly is that you can run it through the web, so you can run it from anywhere really, as long as you've got your permissions to run it, and you don't need any local install. It's really good. So if we crack on with a demonstration of the GRP. So I'll come out of the PowerPoint, always a relief, and across into the demonstration. So I'm running Nav here. So let me just, in fact, what I'll do to begin with, I'll go into the Nav menu, show that you run that resource planner off the top there. So I've got the GRP. When you run it, I've already got it open. It runs in this screen here. And you can see the kind of look and feel of what we're looking at. Down the left-hand side, I've got a number of here employees or subcontractors or plant. On the right-hand side, I've got September, and I've got individual days showing at the moment. Now, we'll show you how you can break that down in a moment into different views of the GRP. This is based on days, but you've got lots of settings. So if I go to the top here, you can see that the day scale could be modified to be 12 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour, 30 minutes, 15 minutes. You've got lots of different options on showing the planning horizon. I've got it set to days here. And you can say, show me just everything this week or this month, today, tomorrow. You can change your views very quickly. And within a planning environment, that's really crucial, because quite quickly planning tools overwhelm the screens that are shown on, no matter how big your screen is. If you've got a lot of people and a lot of resources that you want to plan, it very quickly becomes a little bit unmanageable. So you need these filters and to be able to change the view that you're looking at. And you can see down here you've got some nice options. These weren't available in the GWP, about your column widths, your row heights, that type of thing that you can modify as well, so you can change the look and feel of the planning screen that you've got in front of you. In addition to that, over on the left-hand side, if I click up there, you can see I've got a bunch of filters that I can apply. So these can be simple ones, like a resource filter. I could, if I wanted to filter on just Jane, for example there, I could go in here, type Jane, and it will filter down on Jane. We mentioned those disciplines earlier, so we can show you in 4PS in a moment where these disciplines are set up. But if I go in here and say, show me everything to do with formwork or solar panels or lifting, I'll go for solar panels. Immediately my view will change, and I can see the individuals that are specialised in solar panels. And I can undo the filters to get back to the original filter. Click on lifting. It shows me I've got one guy who's into lifting. So you can see that Richard Vernon actually appeared on both. So these filters allow individuals to have multiple qualifications and multiple disciplines set against them, and it will still do the correct filters within the system when you're putting them on. Okay, so if I go to Richard down here and pick out a new day. You can see against this particular work order down here, it's color-coded in orange, so that's based on the status of the work order at this point in time. Like I say, the colours I've got on here are pretty garish, but you can configure the colours to be exactly the kind of colours that you want. You've got these nice little icons below. Now the icons are context sensitive depending on the type of work order that you're dealing with. But if I click on the I, for example, for information, it will then open 4PS and show me some bits of information about that particular work order that I'm looking at. I can go directly back to the original request. So if I click on the request, it shows me a bit more detail. You can see it's for this particular project. It's got references in addresses, how I filled them in, and also a link through to the actual work order itself. If I open that up, you can see it's then got more details. I can put work order text, planning dates in, whether it's exported to the field service, or the usual things you would get within a work order. So those of you that are used to using the service and maintenance side of 4PS would already be used to work orders. All the bits of information that you have are available then in this screen, and I've clicked on it directly from the planner. Just to note, if you're using projects are now using the same work order screens as the service and maintenance, so they both share the same background screens as you go through them. Okay, and then you can close those down, and I click OK. You can see some other little tasks that you can do here. I can delete that particular work order if I need to. I can see the employee details, so I'll click on the person. It then fires up 4PS and shows me the individual. So this is Richard Vernon, comes up with the awful picture, and you've got details there of mobile phone numbers, email addresses, that type of thing. Well, to navigate in here, you can see lots of all the tables about that person, so you can see when they've got their absences that you store against them over here, absence registration, all the various details about them as an employee. Okay, now one thing that's quite obvious that you might want to do with this is move it around. So you see where I've got the little crosshairs? I can grab that and move it along and move it across to different people. So I'm going to say that Mark Egan is actually going to do that particular job on that day, and that now allocates that particular work order to Mark Egan. What I can do is I can create a brand new work order directly from the system, directly from the graphical planner for that person. So I can say this is a particular, you see it's a request, a service order, a project, or an absence. So if I left it at project, I can then go and choose a particular project. So it's again using the shared information from 4PS. This is the standard project list that we have. So if I go in here and pick out the Riverview development, for example, and OK that, you can see I've got my pink for a brand new order. And I don't know if you noticed, but the actual icons that you can see across here, I've got an additional one in now. Because it's a project or service order, you can actually send it directly to the field service app. So if I click on that icon there, you can see the following work orders have been exported. So that's now gone out to the field service app. And what I can do, if my mobile phone is still on, I'll just check that. Let me just close these down. I can see the field service app here, and again it's just refreshing my field service app, but in there the call that we just had on the GRP will come directly through to that app. I'm just going to leave that running because of if it can pick up, it's got one little bar of data that pops up, so hopefully that will refresh it. It seems to be speeding up there. And there we go, it's speeded up a little bit. You can see down the bottom there, this Riverview development. So that call then has come directly through from GRP and is now sitting on my phone as an engineer. And I can look at the details of that call. Had I put any further details in, you could have seen it, but I've got my customer in there. My location, you can click on the location and it'll Google map it and all that kind of good stuff that you'd expect. So getting back to the GRP, that's come directly from that call there within the system. And we'll click on the, just cancel that, sorry, I started making another call there. Bit trigger happy. Click on the information. And we can see the call. You can see down at the bottom here, I've got a current reference point of being 15. That is the current reference point I've got configured to say that the order has been sent to the tablet. So within the system, we know that that order has been sent to the mobile phone. And so we don't need to think about calling Richard Vernon to tell him that that particular job at review development is on, or anything like that. And by the way, had I dragged documents onto the external documents here, had I put in more details of the job there, they would have all come through onto that field service app at the same time. Okay, I'm just doing it slightly quicker for the demonstration purposes. Okay, there are different types of calls. So that's a project type call. If I go up to, say, Scott up here, I can do a service order or just a simple request. So a service order would allow me to join this call to an existing service order that's within the system. If I do a request, it's basically saying what type of request you want to do. And I've got some configurable request lists in here that I can go and select, and it attaches that call to that particular request within the system. Okay, if I choose a customer type call, so if I do a customer call, what I can then do is directly invoice that call straight from the system. Now, one thing I wanted to show you, if I click on linked resources and click OK, what it does is that Richard Vernon is actually linked to that forklift at the top there. So if I go, for example, to Richard Vernon, click on the filter, it then shows me the forklift truck and Richard Vernon both together. So that new call that I've created, I've managed to create it for both the forklift truck and Richard Vernon, or the forklifter I should say, and Richard Vernon both at the same time. So it's got that allocation of the plant as well as the allocation of the employee at the same time. And that can be obviously multiple employees. So if you've got gangs that go out, you could have a whole gang set up as a resource group. And when you select one of the guys off that gang and you click on linked resources, it would send out everybody within that particular gang. It would allocate them. You can go and change that afterwards. So if you know that one particular person is being dropped off the next day for something else, you can always select the gang and then remove the one person from the planner afterwards. But they're not so bound that you can't make adjustments to it afterwards. But generally speaking, if you've got them linked together and you can move them around and you can move them around together, it will move both of those at the same time. So if I then move that and say, well, actually wanted that on the 13th, it will move them both together. Okay, so that's part of the planning. I'll go to Richard Vernon over here. I just want to create one more type of call for you guys. I just want to show you before we leave, just changing the scale. So if I get rid of the filters, so at the top here I can clear all my filters. And then what I can do is I can start changing this to say, well, show me actually everything by 12 hours. And you can see the scale changes. My column width, if I want to bring that down slightly, I can bring that down so I can see more on the screen at any point in time. And if I say I'm really just focused on next week, or not much going on next week, say this week, and again it changes the view that you've got going in there. The row heights as well can be modified, and you can do a print. So if you need to do a hard copy, not that we would encourage that these days, but potentially you can print out of the system as well at any point in time, and it will print a screenshot of the planner at that point in time. Okay, so if you close it down, I can just show you as well how that runs off 4PS. I've got my resource planner here. It just runs directly within the system. It loads up as you left it. So yeah, it's in there. Okay, just heading back into the PowerPoint for a moment. We just want to talk about some of the things that are coming up within the planner going forward. So one of them is absences within plant. So if you've got plant going into the for servicing, for example, where it goes back into a depot, you'll be able to allocate that time directly within the planner so that it's visible within the planner. You can choose your primary resources. Now, these are things that are like, we said you can filter on things like qualifications and skills. This allows you to have almost your favorite list of resources. So as a planner, when you go in, it will just bring up those lists of resources. Now in 4PS itself, you can link employees to planners so that only certain employees exist within that planner. But you might have these primary resources set up just because you know you're going to be planning a certain number of people over a certain bit of time, and you might want to just focus on those automatically and keep them grouped together. We've got a large railway customer over in Europe that is having a number of features development for them, and they will go into the core product. So those features will come through in a later version of the GRP. We're also going to bring Bing Maps into it, so you can do Bing Maps directly from the GRP and access the map directly from it. I'm going to put worked hours linked to site management timesheets. So this is going to be a link between the GRP and the initial timesheet that you might set up for somebody. So you've got the time and the resources, and rather than those guys having to go in and rekey their timesheet when they've done it, it will suggest their timesheet for that period of time, and they can then make corrections before they submit them. And we showed projects, and for those guys using 4PS, I hope you're aware of something we've got called elements, which is a way of breaking down the project into a work breakdown structure. And that will be coming and be available within the GRP as well, so that you'll be able to allocate people not only to projects, but to actual activities within the project itself. Okay, so those are some of the things coming down the line. Just to roll over some of the benefits we think you'll get from using the GRP. We think one of the big pains that you have at the moment is potentially having islands of data where you've got planning going on in one area, you've got your ERP system in another area, you've got your guys in the work orders maybe in another area getting allocated. You might be using Outlook, you might be using spreadsheets or a planning tool like Project or Asta or something like that. And you've got your ERP where you want to do invoices, you want to do costings to jobs and all that kind of good stuff. We're bringing all that together. So, and we think that increases productivity. Ultimately, it just saves money, saves wasted time. The efficiency of linking to the field service app is a fairly obvious one, where you can communicate directly with all the engineers without them having to contact manually the office. It's easy to use graphical interface, so hopefully that increases productivity again because people can see much more clearly where activities are, and they can use drag and drop. So, you know, rather than having to delete things out of cells and spreadsheets, for example, they can just drag and drop things across the planner. It's easy to share information. So this information is all being pulled into the to 4PS. So not only the engineers, but you might have planners, you might have site managers, you might have all sorts of people that need to get access to the plans. And you can use all sorts of tools. You could use third-party tools like Jet Reports or Power BI to access this information, or just use standard views within 4PS to show information. But either way, even using the GRP itself for people out and about to see what is going on in the system, it increases efficiency and hopefully reduces stress as well. Smaller works can be a bit of a pain to invoice generally, so you end up doing a lot more work than the job is worth sometimes, I guess. And so if you're doing things like, you know, a particular piece of plant gets dropped off at a number of particular jobs during the day, and you have to send out 4 or 5 different invoices to cover that plant and maybe the person that goes with that plant. From the GRP, you can do all that directly, so it makes it a lot quicker. You can plan it, you can click on it, you can create your invoices directly from there, send the invoices out, and it's all in one area. A lot more efficient. The better visibility in the planning, so you've got a total availability and utilisation of all your employees, your subbies, and your plant. So if people are calling in, customers, for example, that you're dealing with, and they want to know schedules, they want to know when people are going to be in certain places, you've got a big view of everything that's going on that's easily accessible, and you can make those calls to that customer, hopefully, a lot quicker than maybe you can at the moment. So essentially, you can see some of the things there that we think are the benefits of using the GRP. And like I say, we do these webinars as a kind of presentation to begin with, and we do have contact details there for anybody that wants to pose further questions. Did you want to take over, Sylvia, and just finish up on that?
Yes, thank you very much. Great. Nice one, Richard. I hope that you all found that interesting and useful. If you have any questions, please take note of the contact details shared by Richard on screen now. I'm more than happy to help you with anything that you've seen this morning. Keep an eye on out for the recording of this webinar on our website. You can view all our past webinars as well. We've got quite an extensive library up there now, and we'll be expanding it in the coming months with tailored for PS webinar sessions as well. So please do go and take a look on our videos page. So again, thanks for being with us this morning. Have a great day, and we'll see you very soon. Cheers.